Hello Scorpio, and welcome to your July to August reading. So what I mean by that, I mean that I'm actually covering transition of Leo because the energies are really very strong per sign versus kind of going that shift and looking at that. So I'm going to also start recording this on my phone because I had nothing but issues with this Mercury retrograde. Okay guys, what I forgot to mention, yes, Mercury retrograde officially finishes July 31st, April 1st, depending on which country you are in. But we are still going to be in the shadow until August 15th. So it is actually a big deal given that, the Mercury retrograde is in Leo. So for that, please look at Mercury retrograde videos that I did before, a week before or so. So Scorpio also, really quick intro. You really, when I said this is a click contest, you really did, roll up your sleeves and decide to click, decide to comment. So you did come to, I think, the 6th place, which almost was from the 10th place. So that's a really big jump. So I really hope you continue because I really feel extraordinary strong bond with you guys. And it will be kind of great to have your readings in the top 3, so that way we can kind of set the stage for everybody else. So this is it, guys, and if this reading resonates with you, this is great. It might not be everything because it's a general reading. It's like, as I said, all navy clothes. It kind of sort of fits, sort of looks good, but there are elements of it that are not going to fit, and that's normal. It is not your reading. Get your reading from me, from cattarot.ca. You can see the other options I have. And also, in the meantime, for you to get more value of the free readings, check your ascendant and check your moon sign. That is, at the very least, to kind of put things together. So let's see what is in the store for Scorpio. Scorpio, what can you tell me about Scorpio? You're having jumpers, and this jumper is really jumping. So actually it's really funny how this was jumping because I was not sure which side is up, which side is down. Let's see if I can zoom this a little bit so you can see this better. It is already zoomed to the maximum. So let's really talk about it. You have here Queen of Swords. Or rather to say, it is a Queen of Wands because she's holding this big wand. I absolutely love how queens are portrayed in this deck, and in this particular deck, clearly both queen and king are showing that royalty, and that's why they have these lion heads on the sides over here. I love her white dress, and I love her determination. She also, however, has a little kind of self either reflecting, because the sunflower, it's almost like a mirror that we see over here. So when Queen of Wands appears, so whether or not you're dealing with somebody who is a fire sign, which could be the case, but this can actually really talk that you need to remember that what you want to do, you can do. This is also talking about joy and courage combined, kind of going through life with vigor, not kind of going through life with kind of sweaty palms. And there is an issue about self-esteem. So usually when stuff like that, and such a strong card and a lovely card comes through, well, I have to ask, was there an issue with self-esteem? And why did you feel that you felt that way, right? Because it doesn't feel like something kind of permanent, right? But it could be that it was a blow. It could be, that it was just simply vanity, or you didn't feel, good enough. And you have to examine that situation. Whew. We are having the Fool as another jumper over here. Jumpers are very important because jumpers are almost like a spirits that want to communicate. If you ever seen The Ghost with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze and Whoopi Goldberg, and Whoopi Goldberg was basically simply a fraud psychic, And because the spirit really wanted to talk to Demi Moore's character in a movie, because her husband, I think it was an accident or something, died, right? Like the spirit just like enter Demi Moore talking, right? So that's kind of like how sometimes feels like these cards are really coming through to really give this additional information, because I do have a spread, but this is like, no, I don't have time, read me now. The Fool is the very first card in a deck. It's almost like a seal. Like we have major arcana, we have minor arcana. In major arcana, we have cards from 0 to 21. And sometimes we have them from 1 to 21, and 0 is at the very end. Because 0 is almost like a loop. It's rather a loop. Okay, you came to the end, let's start all over again. You finish your elementary school, whoops, let's start high school. And so on and so forth in life. But this is also talking about somebody who, in tarot kind of like terms, is kind of like just coming down to this planet to experience, like just imagine it's interstellar traveling. Let's say that would be possibly God, because it does represent God, kind of coming down and saying, well, I really want to see what you really feel, because I wanted to feel it for myself. I want to hear everything and want to learn the lessons. If you really look, like, I mean, and it's really fancy in this pre-Raphaelite deck that I have, which I love. I'm so much in love, almost like Rider Waite. You know that I usually do cat tarots for this, because that's why we are called cat tarot, but I just couldn't resist reading with this deck. So my private clients are going to be super duper happy with this, I believe. So it's really interesting, because you can see how much above this is. So what really comes to mind is, wait a minute, how is this much higher, and this is already all blue, I'm thinking cold blue, or it could be distant blue as well, but this is still all green and all kind of like luxurious. But you can see this sense of royalty over here. Look at his little sash, or whatever this is, the backpack is really something kind of like fancy schmancy if you really think about it, right? And so he is kind of like bringing this sense of freedom. Keep in mind that Fool represents air, because spirituality on this planet is also linked with air sign. So it could be like, I mean, sort of like something going on in your head, but this also can talk about maybe feeling very enchanted with a sense of freedom, but also knowing that certain things kind of like cost too much. Maybe we cannot afford them. Like that's heavy price tag of, let's say, having a relationship with someone. It's too tasking, right? Too draining kind of a thing. This kind of like can really represent layers and layers and layers of thing, from freedom and instinct to an innocence, I guess, to chaos and danger. But this is upright, so I really think this is more or less really talking about that positive kind of like vibrations that are happening. So all right, let's see what other messages do we have for Scorpio. What other messages do we have for Scorpio? Spirits, any other messages? Okay. Oh, I was just about to say I'm cutting this off, and there it is. It was reversed, guys. So there is an artist over here who is admiring her work, and it's really amazing, because I just had that conversation in a park about Walking Tiger with two other people who are artists, right? And like we were all talking about paintings, because we were watching people propping their kind of stuff and painting, but it turned out they were just spray painting. It was like not much of a painting. So we were all talking about how sometimes you overdo things, and when you overdo things, then it takes a long time, if ever, to do it right. This card is really talking about the right measure of things, right? Because look, the tools are all here, but she is really thinking hard if she needs to add anything, right? Imagine putting the $ chain on Mona Lisa. Ooh, I think it will be a little bit overwhelming, and it wouldn't really play things right. In tarot, this card really talks about expertise. It talks about almost like perfection, right? If there is any card talking about it. But it's also talking about that, you know, for her, this project is maybe transitory, something that is just happening in a moment, but maybe for society it's going to be long lasting. This also can talk about, that you're willing to put yourself to the test, and you want to exceed the expectations. So there is kind of like that perfectionism coming through it. So this can talk about career advancement, this can talk about promotions, but then again, guys, this can be reversed. So something is keeping you stuck, something is keeping you from giving your best pour forward, or maybe you simply don't have other people. Sometimes it's not us. So I laugh at, because most of us always interpret it that way. Well, it's not me, couldn't be me. Sometimes it's not us, but it really could be them in your situation. Okay, Scorpio, which is any more? You're getting oh, you had Fool, and now you have the Magician, and I love this Magician. They pick a woman, and it makes so much more sense, right? So, this is really talking about you guys have been multi-talented, which kind of links with that Three of Pentacles, right? And it is really time to go up and up and up. Like, you do have what's needed. Like, stop procrastinating, start going to what you need to do. Like, there is a talent, and you need to also show initiative, because that too kind of like make this really deadly combination. So, combined with the Fool, it is saying, ooh, yeah, this is so cool. Here it is, like, mind is very sharp. Both of these cards, did you notice how tarot deck is starting with air? There's like 0 was air and 1 is air, because that's kind of like descent. In the story of Tarot, Fool is coming to the Magician and saying, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I was told I have to learn everything about you people and how you live your lives, and humans and animals and everything. So Magician is saying, okay, I'll teach you. There are some tools about that, except this is not the Magician. And I'm sorry, this is just me learning about this tarot. This is actually Ace of Cups. Or rather to say, it is a Queen of Wands, because she's holding this big wand. I absolutely love how queens are portrayed in this deck. And in this particular deck, clearly both Queen and King are showing that royalty, and that's why they have these like lion heads on the sides over here. I love her white dress, and I love her determination. She also, however, has a little kind of like self either reflecting, because the sunflower, it's almost like a mirror that we see over here. So when Queen of Wands appears, so whether or not you're dealing with somebody who is a fire sign, which could be the case, but this can actually really talk that you need to remember that what you want to do, you can do. This is also talking about joy and courage combined, kind of like going through life with vigor, not kind of like going through life with kind of like sweaty palms. And like there is like an issue about self-esteem. So usually when stuff like that and such a strong card and a lovely card comes through, well, I have to ask, was there an issue with self-esteem? And why did you feel that you felt that way, right? Because it doesn't feel like something kind of like permanent, right? But it could be that it was a blow. It could be, that it was just simply vanity, or you didn't feel, good enough. And you have to examine that situation. Whew. We are having the Fool as another jumper over here. Jumpers are very important because jumpers are almost like a spirits that want to communicate. If you ever seen The Ghost with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze and Whoopi Goldberg, and Whoopi Goldberg was basically simply a fraud psychic. And because the spirit really wanted to talk to Demi Moore's character in a movie because her husband, I think it was an accident or something, died, right? Like the spirit just like enter Demi Moore talking, right? So that's kind of like how sometimes feels like these cards are really coming through to really give this additional information, because I do have a spread, but this is like, no, I don't have time, read me now. The Fool is the very first card in a deck. It's almost like a seal. Like we have major arcana, we have minor arcana. In major arcana, we have cards from 0 to 21. And sometimes we have them from 1 to 21, and 0 is at the very end. Because 0 is almost like a loop. It's rather a loop. Okay, you came to the end, let's start all over again. You finish your elementary school, whoops, let's start high school, and so on and so forth in life. But this is also talking about somebody who, in tarot kind of like terms, is kind of like just coming down to this planet to experience, like just imagine it's interstellar traveling. Let's say that would be possibly God, because it does represent God, kind of coming down and saying, well, I really want to see what you really feel, because I wanted to feel it for myself. I want to hear everything and want to learn the lessons. If you really look, like, I mean, and it's really fancy in this pre-Raphaelite deck that I have, which I love. I'm so much in love, almost like rather weight. You know that I usually do cat tarots for this, because that's why we are called cat tarot, but I just couldn't resist reading with this deck. So my private clients are going to be super duper happy with this, I believe. So it's really interesting, because you can see how much above this is. So what really comes to mind is, wait a minute, how is this much higher, and this is already all blue? I'm thinking cold blue, or it could be distant blue as well, but this is still all green and all kind of like luxurious. But you can see this sense of royalty over here. Look at his little sash, or whatever this is, the backpack is really something kind of like fancy schmancy if you really think about it, right? And so he is kind of like bringing this sense of freedom. Keep in mind that Fool represents air, because spirituality on this planet is also linked with air sign. So it could be like, I mean, sort of like something going on in your head, but this also can talk about maybe feeling very enchanted with a sense of freedom, but also knowing that certain things kind of like cost too much. Maybe we cannot afford them. Like, that's heavy price tag of, let's say, having a relationship with someone. It's too tasking, right? Too draining kind of a thing. This kind of like can really represent layers and layers and layers of thing, from freedom and instinct to an innocence, I guess, to chaos and danger. But this is upright, so I really think this is more or less really talking about that positive kind of like vibrations that are happening. So all right, let's see what other messages do we have for Scorpio. What other messages do we have for Scorpio? Spirits, any other messages? Okay. Oh, I was just about to say I'm cutting this off, and there it is. It was reversed, guys. So there is an artist over here who is admiring her work, and it's really amazing, because I just had that conversation in a park about walking tiger with two other people who are artists, right? And like, we were all talking about paintings, because we were watching people propping their kind of stuff and painting, but it turned out they were just spray painting. It was like not much of a painting. So we were all talking about how sometimes you overdo things, and when you overdo things, then it takes a long time, if ever, to do it right. This card is really talking about the right measure of things, right? Because look, the tools are all here, but she is really thinking hard if she needs to add anything, right? Imagine putting the $ chain on Mona Lisa. Ooh, I think it will be a little bit overwhelming, and it wouldn't really play things right. In tarot, this card really talks about expertise. It talks about almost like perfection, right? If there is any card talking about it. But it's also talking about that, you know, for her, this project is maybe transitory, something that is just happening in a moment. But maybe for society it's going to be long lasting. This also can talk about, you know, that you're willing to put yourself to the test, and you want to exceed the expectations. So there is kind of like that perfectionism coming through it. So this can talk about career advancement, this can talk about promotions, but then again, guys, this can be reversed. So something is keeping you stuck, something is keeping you from giving your best pour forward, or maybe you simply don't have other people. Sometimes it's not us. So I laugh it because most of us always interpret it that way. Well, not me, couldn't be me. Sometimes it's not us, but it really could be them in your situation. Okay, Scorpio, which is any more? You're getting oh, you had Fool and now you have the Magician. So it's very interesting because both Page of Cups and Ace of Cups are talking about fresh start, going in a new direction. And Lover's card is, in general, also talking about love and soulmates and kindred spirits, even though it's also talking about really choices we make. And so it's almost like a warning. It's a sweet thing, but it's also a warning. Like, you know, it's almost like wedding vows. Like, do you really want to take this man for the rest of your life, or this woman? You are aware of a big commitment that can be made, right? So it's kind of like really interesting over here in this particular card. She's almost like holding on to him, and almost kind of could look like that he kind of like wants to run away. But okay, so let's not go into details what it represents. Let's go with what it says. So when it comes reversed, and this is your general energy, guys, the Lover card can indicate inverse that you may have been struggling with to take ownership of some decisions that you have made, and there's like some conflict maybe within you. You might feeling uncertain of the direction where your life is going in, but you really at the same time need to remember that you are the master of your own destiny. So don't try to blame the universe if your situation is kind of like a result of choices that you made. So this is really saying, hey, be accountable, right? Learn from past mistakes and then let them go. If you do that, you will be able to move forward in a positive direction, even though card is reversed. And how you will be able moving forward, because you will develop a deeper understanding of, let's say, your true self, right? You will your values and your beliefs, which I was telling you about, that card over there, right? It is kind of like to avoid repeating the same mistakes in the future. This really tells me that maybe some of you have been dealing with a partner or partners that all kind of like ended up being, sorry to say, crappy, or there were kind of like some issues about that, right? So let's kind of like move into this relationship meaning, because with general energies I cover all the layers, right? Within a relationship, when this card is reversed, so again, this card is reversed, but since it's really hard to kind of like turn your head around, I'm going to keep it upright, right? This kind of can talk about sexual aspects of relationship and saying there's attraction and sex is still great, but maybe you are not on the same page with your partner on important areas, right? It could be that small tear. Did you ever guys wear like, I mean, stockings or nylons, and then you get a little rip, and then you go, oh no, because next thing you know, it just keeps going all the way and ends up in a garbage. So this is just like that tear really showing up, right? So this can also signify that one partner is more emotionally invested in the relationship, and it could be fear or even trust issues that is possibly stopping you of kind of like jumping in fully. And one sign that really knows that gets it, is you guys. I mean, I'm Aquarius. To me, this is like me being shown vulnerable, which is really difficult, and I really have to work on it. Still work on it every day, every minute. For you guys, this is easy breezy. It comes naturally, unless somebody hurts you, somebody betrayed your trust. Then you become just like air signs that, yeah, no, polite, cool, but you're not giving yourself. And that's almost like, in a sense, because you have that sting, right? The scorpionic sting. It's like kind of like F you to them and punishment. I mean, it could be like also polite way of kind of like not letting your sadness to come through because you felt kind of let down. So again, like, it's very important, especially in the beginning of a relationship, because I see that some of you will be forming new relationships. I do see that some of you will find really intrigued with someone, and Scorpio and sex is like me and ice cream. It just like happens. It does happen. So lure is there, but you see what most people don't know about you, and like everybody, oh, Scorpio and sex, yeah, you take sex, but you go, this was really not good for me, right? And you kind of like have this ability to move on. But at this stage, I really feel that you, especially those viewers of my channel, you're not on that, oh, let me hop from one bed to another bed to another bed. You're like people who are more interested into what is my purpose, what am I doing on this planet, in which direction do I really want to go, that kind of like stuff, right? Because I really think there is like everything that I'm seeing here is about connection, that you maybe have been going through the periods of having different partners where the spark and sex and everything was there, but the glue was not there, so it just became really brittle, and those mortar in between the bricks just didn't exist. So eventually the wind blew over and they kind of like flip down, kind of a thing, right? So check if you already are in a relationship, especially if it's a new one, that if you have different goals. And not just because the person says, yeah, sure, I want to be with you, I love you, blah, 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 you're like the best. No, look at their actions. Very, very important, because we are going through extremely karmic period right now. It's almost going to be like, up is down, down is up, day is night, night is day, and we will need to apologize for the things that other people did to us. It's a very hard concept, but karma sometimes kind of like put us in the salt shaker and kind of like makes this, I guess, more interesting for them, whoever is watching us, kind of like battle this life, right? So these differences, guys, that you notice need to be resolved ASAP. Otherwise, that relationship is not going to thrive. For those of you who are single, also pay attention that you are just not going to be with someone just because they seem to be sexy, or kind of like that you really want to jump their bones or something, even if you're really, really hungry, let's put it that way. The Lovers does indicate a relationship coming your way, but it might not happen as soon as you hope, because it is reversed, right? Or as I said, picking partners for wrong reasons is also something like where you can get sidetracked, right? So my advice would be, if you are going to get involved with someone, this Major Arcana card, it tells you to, hey, make sure you connect with them in more than one way. Even if you have a very intense sexual connection, it's not going to make this relationship work. As far as, let's go, what do I want to cover next? Let's say money and career. That can actually talk about some kind of disharmony in a business relationship. Maybe there's an argument, or it will be an argument about the direction the business is taking and kind of like goals in the future, very similar to what I told you about your love life. And it can also indicate, also like in the upright situation, there is a possibility of a romance at work, but this comes with a stark warning, right? Because it can get you into trouble in your career. So be very careful, and be very make sure that you are prepared to accept the consequences of mixing business and pleasure, because I am telling you, this can get very messy. And financially, this can talk about being a little bit irresponsible and making impulsive decisions, especially when it comes to money. And it kind of can talk about instant gratification as well, kind of like I immediately need something. It's something for something kind of like attitude. So Also, what I really want to add about this card in the other levels is that you guys need to reconnect with your body, and how you need to bring your body to harmony and health, because after all, we are getting this connection, Ace of Cups, which is you, which is telling me you're in the beginning stage of a maybe new cycle, and you feel like, hey, I'm me, I'm feeling like me. Maybe you didn't feel like you. Maybe people rub you the wrong way. Maybe always like felt some kind of like attack, you know, or shocks coming from all the sides, and kind of like standing on a banana peel. But right now it really tells me that maybe this took a toll on your body, and maybe you're even feeling that your body is against you, and you need to learn to be kind to yourself and to the others, whether or not which one is affected or both, right? And work within your energy levels. Energy level work is paramount this particular month. Like, I mean, I have some energy sessions that are very relatively short and very effective, and they can, it's almost like vibration. Like, you know how sometimes if you're putting a makeup on and you have wrinkles, so it's the skin, how it goes, and it goes the wrinkle down, right? The same thing goes with these energy gaps, right? So that kind of like deep, like, I mean, wrinkle over here needs to be filled in properly, right? So that's where the energy needs to hit, right, in that state. And some people just go on YouTube and they go with the generic energy, which, like, hey, you don't have cancer, why are you taking medications for cancer? Or you don't have, you know, so and so, you don't have a flu. So this is created just for you. And kind of like you need to kind of like allow yourself of being amazed, of allowing yourself to be able again to create and do all this amazing stuff. But you also need rest and you need recuperation, because that restoration of your health and of yourself is really important. So don't get frustrated, because your body here really needs this time to heal, right? You really want to push it forward, but just kind of like you have few gaping holes and just want to kind of like cover them, right? So also, which is not typical for you, I know that you guys are very career oriented and very ambitious, but you are not very materialistic, and it comes to you, it's your really usual, like your really good statement of do what you love and the money will follow. So hence you're usually blessed when you work really hard at what you want and when you're going in the direction where you want, right? But this can actually a little bit kind of like warn about, or be an indicator, let's say, that you are maybe focusing on materialistic pursuits a little bit too much, and that you think this is kind of like make you happy. You need to really sit here and maybe stop and ask yourself, was I thinking this? Did I buy myself good things? And why am I doing this, right? Because you might be feeling good, but it's not going to bring again that harmony that you need. So you really need to kind of like focus on your spiritual side and discover the very true you, because it's going to be way more rewarding, right? And this also can talk about, again, sexual attraction between you and maybe somebody who is your spiritual advisor, right? So hello, no. If they are seeking also relationship with you, I mean, with me, that's why I don't show up on camera, because one, I want to protect my privacy. Two, I don't need a whole bunch of internet freaks. But the main idea is, let's just kind of like follow the train of thought versus my makeup, my lipstick, my hair, etc. But if you're seeking an intimate relationship, if somebody is seeking, if spiritual advisor is seeking a relationship with you, it may be for the wrong reasons, right? It's not like you might be feeling, oh, this is so great, and or it could be some kind of rock star or somebody who is really to you an idol, right? So it's not going to bring you to the level and closer and sort of like feel embraced. In fact, they might really abuse their power, I have to say. They're supposed to, and see, this is like what I do with my coaching with my clients. This person, a spiritual guidance or coach or therapist, is meant to be guiding you to your spiritual path, not dating you. It's not only frowned upon, but it's kind of like very illegal in many different circumstances. So let's start. Let's start, my dear Scorpio. Oh, we are starting with Six of Cups. I mean, Mercury retrograde and water sign, what can go wrong, right? We all signs are looking at Mercury retrograde. There is something that kind of like is poked in us. And for you, of course, being the element of emotions are being triggered. Triggered. Let me have a cup of coffee so I can speak better. And this card really nicely represents that, right? So we are seeing here, like, I mean, these kind of like beautiful women, they're like really engaging what I would say is nothing but a friendship. And there's like, they're like really grouped together. It's almost like they're like on a freaking pile over here, if you really want to think about it. So, but there is like one that is a central figure. So is it that you maybe and I don't think this is like a time for reunions right now in July and August, but it could be kind of like reuniting with your old friends. It could be thinking about the old relationships that were better. It could be thinking about some other people that you had. Clearly memories of the past are here coming to mind, right? And this can actually go as back down to childhood, as back down to kind of like feeling kind of like protection. Like, you have that ability to kind of like have these let's say compartments in your head, and in these compartments you have, okay, this is what I was when I was in the elementary school, this is what I was in high school, this is how I was like in my first love. You can really go in that compartment of a room and feel. It's just like, you know, there is like this full-blown experience that you guys are capable of doing it. So I'm wondering if, because this is a 6, and yeah, you had a 6 over here as well, although reversed, mind you had also the Page of Cups as well, joining it here as well. And let me at this stage have it a little bit more of a view here for you guys. So remember how you had this like Three of Pentacles initially, and Three of Pentacles was talking about expertise and being maybe really overly perfectionistic. Maybe you're looking back at your relationships that you had in the past, because this is actually a really lovely card. You see, in this card here, we are seeing a man and a woman, and she is admiring this work. Where in the Three of Pentacles we only had a woman or a man. I was guessing that artist was a woman, even though technically pre-Raphaelites they really didn't have women over there. And he is making final touches on the last thing. It's almost like, feels like, and the way she's holding her hand, oh my goodness, you did all of that, this is so beautiful. That's kind of like how I would read this, right? And this card to me kind of connects me with commitment. So like the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this, I was like wondering, are you thinking about your past commitments? Also, I don't know if you can see this building, which most likely is a church, right? We can see this like, I mean, steep, let's say, supporting kind of thing. But I don't know if you can see it here. Let me zoom it in closer. You can see the steps. Steps are supposed to come up, because look at all these beautiful, beautiful women. And every single one is representing something really new and some other background. It's almost like thinking about, hey, my past was so great, right? But you are actually taking that in an extremely positive way. Not only are you thinking that your past was great, but you're also thinking, how do I recreate great things from my past? And you see, you will be a little bit conflicted. Certainly there is like a sense of, you're going to be obsessed with the word soulmate. I really have to tell you. You can put it on the fridge, move it over, like, I mean, analyze every single letter, start with S for the sun, and just go with this, right? Because you're really coming up with trying to feel that you need to marry two very different aspects. Maybe like, I mean, there is a conflict inside of you. Maybe you're very attracted with someone but also very unattracted with them. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say they have beautiful face, beautiful eyes, but they don't have great personality. Or it can mean like, just if you just look on one same layer, like they are like really great in some respects, and then they say some crappy stuff, right, that they can be deemed racist or misogynist or something like that, and you're like, okay, was this a coincidence? Was that really a bad day? Or these people are just freaks, right? I don't want to deal with them. So you're kind of like trying to kind of like work and marry those aspects over here. So let's see what is basically past foundation, and what kind of like from your past, and it can be this life, it can be many other lives, that maybe it's kind of like really what is triggering this entire situation, which actually is not a bad situation for you to start with. Now look at that. Like, looks like that you step back from someone. Maybe you freed yourself from a situation where, you know, maybe you didn't want to free yourself with a situation. Maybe you have been dealing with somebody who maybe, let's say, was not on a keen level or on the same level with you financially. Maybe you have been dealing with your own kind of like ground. Maybe you have some kind of like professional setbacks, or the money is not flowing as it was supposed to, because she's like really generally enjoying her life in Nine of Pentacles. And some reader would say, oh, you're single. No. That's exactly when you can make real decisions. So usually to me, this would be, let's say, hey, you just won lottery and you can have anything that you want. Let's say this lottery is $500 million. Let's make it $1 billion. Are you still going to be with the partner you are with? Are you still going to put up with their little crap? Are you, if the answer is yes, that's a great answer. That means you're with the right partner. But if you're shrugged even a little bit, well, you need to really think about it, right? See, this Nine of Pentacles is reversed over here. So this is really telling me that, you know, there was a lack of humor in some kind of situation, and it kind of like felt like losing. It felt like no matter what you did, kind of like went in the wrong direction. No matter how you position things, you have been the guilty one. No matter like what you wanted to do, right? It's always like somebody found fault with this. It's almost like the best things that you thought you're bringing, like, I mean, to the table, were judged. And you're like, whoa, I made this cake to make you happy. Why you're like throwing it in my face? What do you mean, like, I want to make you fat? Like, when did you tell me that you're on a diet, right? I am sorry, this is the last thing I want to do, right? Because I see you, like, I mean, you're taking the step back. You're kind of like trying to balance certain things inside of you, and just to see, okay, how much of my wrongdoing was this, and how much was really them? Like, I mean, like, you're really figuring out if you did anything wrong in this whole situation. So let us see what is like, what is your ground and what is above you in this particular transition in the period. Oh my goodness, you're getting amazing read. Look at this is a Queen of Cups. This is you guys, Queen and Kings of Cups. Queen is like more emotional expression, where King is like more protective expression, right? Protecting somebody from the ills of the world if you really wish, right? So Queen as your ground is really talking about you really need to listen to your heart, and you are really sensual this particular time. You have like this very kind of like high psychic powers and imagination. There is like a big insight, and almost like feels like the connections, like you're almost like able to, you're able to create whatever you want. So I have to warn you that if you really go and open this door, it's only going to be sex, and that sex is not going to lead to love, right? And sex, that you're going to actually end up resenting it. You're going to say, what the hell was I thinking, kind of a thing, where there's like this huge potential of this kind of like big heart of becoming whole. It kind of like comes back to that healing energy and things that really need to be taken in account. And what is about what is about you is the Hangman. You had a Fool, and God showed its face in that card, but now you have the Hangman, and that shows God again. And it's kind of like first stage of the travel is finished, and it was like all enthusiastic, yeah, I'm doing all of that stuff, right? In this case, like, I mean, met this beautiful woman, and that's why you're seeing him running away from her, because he feels he still has a mission, because he has to go all the way to 21. So here is like this halfway through the mission, and this is really talking about sacrifices. It's really talking about needing to see things from somebody else's, point of view, and doing that gladly, not doing that with some kind of resentment, right? So we need to kind of like adopt a different perspective, and it's going to take maybe some kind of patience and waiting. But I really have to say, especially if you are a guy, that it might actually signify impotence, and you might be meeting somebody who is, let's say, very religious, who, let's say, doesn't want a sex, but you're going to feel like, remember, like, this my whole kind of like warning about spiritual leader. Be very careful not to become a prey of somebody who you kind of like covet very highly. But on the same token, don't prey on the others who you'll be attracting like opportunities like I mean, bees to honey. It's going to be crazy this particular month. So let's see what is ahead of you. And you have Queen of Wands reversed, and there she is. She's making her appearance once again, but she is reversed in this particular stage. And this is really talking about something that is imminently going to happen. So maybe you're dealing with a diva, because to me, all these queens, when they reverse, they become a little bit, overly indulgent in who they are. Remember how here it was a reflection and she was introspective, but maybe you will have a lesson to somebody who doesn't have that introspection. There are people like that. Like, my dad is like that. He never asks himself ever. He's 76 years old. He has never asked himself, was it wrong in this situation? Nope. He's always right. So any normal person knows this is not possible. And this is why being in this stage and God saying, yes, I'm going to take this sacrifice, this is like proverbial cross, if you wish, right? And also Hermit is a God kind of creature over here in the deck. So this is like saying, okay, you know what? I am bigger than the situation. I'm kind of like positioning myself in the situation. Because that's why I'm saying, is this going to be you? That you're going to feel like, okay, I'm going to be mover and shaker. I'm going to be a show off kind of a thing, right? This, remember I told you, this is about, doing what you can and determination. But this also can talk about some kind of like caprices of someone, right? It was like this beautiful perfume that I loved when I was a teenager. It was called Caprice, and for some reason that I just like smelled the whiff of it and came to this reading. So yeah, it actually, because it's mirroring this card, can talk about this overindulgence, and maybe you're not aware that somebody looking at what you're doing is seeing that maybe from a different perspective. This is maybe not even you. So for example, maybe you're in a position to spend and splurge the money, and somebody else doesn't have money, and they might say, okay, you know what, this person is a spender, and usually guys are not spenders. You're really good with your money. Hi, Sophie. You love Scorpio? More than me? That's a good answer. It's a good answer. I love you. But can I continue for Scorpios, or you're here to bring them good luck? Huh? Hi, baby girl. So guys, be very careful if kind of like put yourself in the shoes of the other person, and just like try to ask yourself, what do they see? What do they see in the situation? Do they see person who wants to impress them, who wants to treat them well, or do they see somebody who is splurging, who is wasteful, who maybe they feel like that they are out of that league, that they are never going to be able to reciprocate or doing things like that, right? Because you really need to kind of like think about that situation. So the next, I really want to see how internally you're kind of like handling and processing this entire situation. Zephy, do you think we can do that? This is again Knight of Pentacles. This is again, as I call it here, a Siamese horse, because it has this like tips. So no wonder that you showed up, Miss Siamese. So this horse looks like you, like with this kind of like darker tips. But it was reversed. To me, this card is the card of the ultimate friendship. To me, this card is about, you know, who is there for you when times get tough. And almost like sounds to me, this is the lesson that you have learned. This is like something that you emerge from very strongly. And maybe you're putting these people on an extremely additional test because you don't want to be squished. You don't want to waste time. You don't want to be overindulgent, but at the same time, you have learned certain things that work and they didn't work, right? So when this Knight of Pentacles really shows up, we are really talking about a slowdown. I mean, we do have, look at this, cups, 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 cups. I mean, earth, cups. So it's only like one fast moving, right? And that one is like, I mean, in reverse, so it's kind of like getting stuck on the point, not going all the way, right? So these, sorry, two cards, this Queen of Wands is also fast. But look at this, everything else, you are really taking your time. You are really careful. You are, I don't want to say it's a snake because it's a really bad comparison, but you know, like something that crawls on the ground, you really have to take, you know, you have to look left and you have to look right. So sort of trouble to the left, trouble to the right, kind of like thing, like that Cage the Elephant song says, their trouble song. So you're maybe also shooting the messenger, and some of you are feeling extreme guilt in this particular situation because this is really coming here reversed. So I'm really wondering, why is that? I'm really wondering if you feel that you have betrayed someone, because this is like about waking up. This is about figuring out what is truly important, right? And it's kind of like a lost opportunity of some kind of form, a lost proposal, which to me kind of like goes back and links to this. Look, maybe you have been either in a situation where sex was all that mattered, or sexuality was all that mattered. No, that is not important, like click and spark is important, but you are now wondering, wait a minute, did I kind of like put value of 85% to this and everything else was 15%? No wonder things are not working out. Like now you're like saying, okay, why don't I do kind of like 50-50, right? So you can see this like huge improvement. So I really think you'll be doing some kind of like reshaping, repositioning, realigning, kind of like how you do things. And then we are having hopes and fears. With hopes and fears, oh my goodness, we have this again. So now we have the Knight of Cups. So what I really don't like about these knights is that they're super careful. Look, they're looking down. What will I step into if I ask you out? What will I do? So the only difference is like basically that they're dressed differently, and this guy's like more careful, like, I mean, and this guy's on a horse, if you really think about it. So what is about this cautiousness over here that is happening? Because these are your hopes and fears. Hope is that something beautiful and something really romantic is coming through, right? So this is really talking about, you know, nobility. Like, I mean, you have these knights, you see, like you have these queens, one up, one down. You have the knights, one up, one down. So maybe you have been trying to be something you're not, square peg in the round hole, and now, hey, I really want to be this. I want to listen to my heart, right? There's also something about harmony and elegance, and you're really repairing stuff that have been disharmonious in the past, that kind of like didn't fit, or some shoe didn't fit, but you really still wanted it badly, and you're really re-examining yourself. And the people coming to your life in this particular time, they'll be sort of like a mirror, and you're looking at these people differently. You're saying, okay, so what are you mirroring in me? And you don't really care about just the surface. You really want to kind of like see what is underneath that surface, what kind of like is making them tick, because only then you really see that mirror properly, because for some reason you really wanted to have that manifested in your life. So lastly, let's kind of like see the direction where all of that is taking.